Why, hello there. I hope you guys didn't miss me too much. I feel like YouTube isn't all that great for my sanity. Every time I log in, my recommended page usually gives me new videos from Russell Brand or something, and it makes me feel down knowing that these people have the time to upload every single day while I realistically can only make one video per week. So last week when I couldn't upload, it felt quite suffocating. But worry not, I am back. I figured we shall take a look at Dubay once again today, partly because he makes these nice and short videos which are easy to respond to, but also because there's a topic that I haven't heard too much from flat earthers, and that's regarding the ability to see into the other side of the earth. Or Mount Everest or something. Because, you know, a lack of curvature means light would realistically be able to travel an infinite distance for anyone anywhere to see. So let's talk about this for a bit and expand on the science while we do so.
Globe earthers often ask, if the earth is flat, then why can't people from anywhere in the world zoom with a telescope and see Mount Everest?
Mount Everest is usually chosen as a topic of discussion because, you know, it's the mountain with the highest altitude on Earth, and theoretically, you should be able to see it as long as there's nothing obstructing your view, if the Earth were flat that is, and I should be able to see the patch of land I own in Scotland too with the help of a telescope. Oh, you didn't know? I own land in Scotland, and based on historic Scottish customs, I am now called Lord Stick. So please, address me with that title from now on. Oh, what's that? You're asking how you can also get a cool title like that? Well, worry not, because we've actually partnered with Established Titles to allow you to do just that. With a few simple clicks of a button, you can also become a lord or lady. Established Titles allows you to buy as little as 1 square foot or up to 10 square feet of land in none other than the beautiful place of Scotland, where you are then given a bundle option to receive a physical certificate with your choice of title according to Scottish customs. I just received mine the other day, and my lord, no pun intended, is the certificate and the frame high quality. I remember I had to pay more for a frame for my undergraduate diploma, and that was just for the frame itself. Anyway, you can see the proclamation here with your title and name printed very nicely at the top corner in big letters so it stands out just the way I like it. With every bundle purchased from Established Titles, you will receive a dedicated plot of land according to the size you choose, a certificate, which we saw earlier, and a unique plot number that references the land you bought. Choose between the lordship or ladyship options, and if you feel like including a significant other in your land ownership, Established Titles also offers a couples pack where you can print both your names on the certificate. The lord or lady that goes with their title can actually be officially used as your name and in documentation, such as credit cards or plane tickets, as long as the document allows for prefixes similar to Mr. or Mrs. Oh, and did I mention that for every order, a tree will be planted somewhere in the world? Established Titles is committed to woodland conservation efforts with a collaboration with One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future. So your purchase will contribute to the protection of biodiversity in Scotland. If all of this sounds interesting to you, be sure to head over to establishedtitles.com/ProfessorStick. There's actually a Mother's Day sale right now, and by using the code ProfessorStick, you can get 10% off while also receiving a wonderful Mother's Day present. Once again, that's establishedtitles.com/ProfessorStick. Thank you to Established Titles for sponsoring today's video. And without further ado, let's talk some more science.
To begin with, this question presupposes the errant assumption that we can see indefinitely far with the use of a telescope. This idea has been indoctrinated into people due to modern astronomers claiming that the stars and planets shown through their telescopes are millions and billions and trillions of miles away.
Okay, so I have a confession to make. According to where you are, you actually likely will not be able to see Mount Everest if the Earth were flat. Yeah, I know, disappointing. I say likely not be able to because there are a few factors that will need to be taken into consideration, a few of which we'll go over later. It's easy to say we could see it because in our minds, light just travels in a straight line, and if there's no curvature, it's logical to assume we can see everything across the Earth. And what better example to choose than the tallest point on Earth? However, there are a lot more factors in play here. For one, there's the atmosphere, which is full of gas particles that reflect and refract the light in all different directions. Telescopes can see very far into space because there's no atmosphere in space to distort our vision. For telescopes on Earth, we can have very powerful ones that see things like stars or other planets, but that's because we only have to travel a short distance of atmosphere before reaching the void of space, somewhere between 100 to a few thousand kilometers depending on definition. But if we were on one side of the Earth, say here in the United States, just for the purposes of this point let's pick New York City, trying to see Mount Everest, we'd be looking through 12,000 kilometers of dense air, which is thicker than air particles you would see as you moved higher into space. And that's just the atmosphere itself. Since our line of vision is essentially ground level, you'd have to deal with things like smoke, smog, or even simply clouds. So the chances are you won't be able to see Mount Everest from anywhere in the world, if the Earth were flat that is. There's another factor that is important, which we will go over later.
In reality, however, as you can test for yourself, using a telescope or camera with just 100 or 200 times zoom capability, the stars and planets are not nearly that far away, and can be zoomed into incredible detail beyond what would be possible of something so absurdly distant.
Yeah, no, that's just speculation. There's no way, according to your model, that you have any idea how far away the stars are. You just think they're close by because they look that way to you, which I don't actually even know what that's based on. Depending on the atmospheric conditions, you can see different types of stars at night, and that does bring me back to the point about atmospheric interruptions, because it doesn't just affect which stars you see, but also how they appear to you. That, combined with the quality of the telescope, can really define how you see stars, and explain why they flicker sometimes, like in the footage you just saw. This is actually why we have a lot of telescopes way up in space, orbiting the Earth like a satellite, because that way you can get a clearer view while minimizing uncontrollable factors such as the Earth's atmosphere. In fact, many of our most powerful telescopes are up there, and whenever you see an image of deep space, that's usually how they are taken. Now, back to the main point. We know the distance of stars from a few different techniques. One of the more popular ones to measure the distance of nearby stars is by using parallax and trigonometry. The concept is very simple. You see how a star's position changes relative to you after measuring it from two different time points of the year after the Earth has moved a significant distance. For example, the Earth's position in June is across the other side of the sun compared to December. If you reach out your hand in front of your face, you can close your left and then your right eye, and the position of an object in the background changes depending on which eye you have open. So by taking the position of a star at two different positions, you can obtain the parallax angle, which then you can use to calculate the distance of a star. Of course, actually implementing this method is a lot harder than it sounds, and this method really only works for nearby stars, say within approximately 3 times 10 to the power of 16 kilometers, since the angle gets too small to measure beyond that point. Any further and we can estimate using brightness and color spectrum measurements. The point I'm trying to make is that we don't just give a random number to describe the distance to the stars. People don't just blindly believe that we see stars that are hundreds of light years away, because there are actual calculations that go into this, mathematics that can be performed by anyone really, not just the scientists. Meanwhile, the flat earthers' claim about stars being close by has no foundation, no evidence, and most certainly no math to support it. If I had to choose a side, I think I know which one to get behind.
Furthermore, when looking horizontally across the Earth, there are a number of visibility and atmospheric limitations present that don't factor when looking upwards towards the stars, namely perspective and convergence, angular resolution and the vanishing point, as well as pollution, haze, humidity, fog, mist, and more.
Yeah, so this part I will have to agree with Eric on, which actually brings me to another point on why you likely would not be able to see Everest if the Earth were flat. Obviously, the situation would change depending on your current location, but choosing Mount Everest as the tallest point on Earth isn't actually enough for buildings and other mountains to not block your vision, because we're standing at sea level, which means the line of sight from you to the top of Everest is shorter than Mount Everest itself. Closer objects appear larger and will likely block your view, depending on where you are located, of course. So the chances are Mount Everest will just be hidden behind some other large object. Now, does that mean we can't use this argument against flat earthers? We actually still can, and I'll tell you why in the next part.
Most people asking about seeing Mount Everest through a telescope have never actually experimented with one themselves, or else would already know that visibility gets progressively more distorted the further you zoom, until nothing can be discernibly resolved. There are also, of course, hills, mountains, buildings, trees, and innumerable other objects in the way, obstructing any possible view to Mount Everest.
Exactly, but this argument actually works against you. Yes, the further we are trying to look, the more likely the light cannot travel that far and thus you cannot see Everest. Now, since a lot of flat earthers live in the United States, the argument fundamentally assumes you're trying to look halfway across the Earth in order to see Everest on a flat Earth. And like Eric said, the further out it is, the more difficult it would be able to see it. But what if we took this example and modified it a bit? For example, what if you're not trying to look at something 12,000 kilometers away? What if we scaled it down a bit, where the curvature would still block your vision of something, but it wouldn't be far enough for the atmosphere and other obstacles to make it disappear on a flat flat Earth. If the Earth were flat, you would actually easily be able to see Mount Washington, the largest mountain in northeastern US, from say Boston. Or actually, even if we stand on top of a nearby mountain, say Mount Katahdin, we still do not see Mount Washington, and this is at a distance of just over 300 kilometers, which would easily be visible with a telescope. Or better yet, if we still want to use Mount Everest, then from Mount Kailash to Everest is about 600 kilometers. The fact that we do not see this is good proof that the Earth cannot be flat, because the other mountain is hidden behind the curvature of the Earth. So the comparison to Everest to begin with, combined with the assumption that we're trying to see it from North America, is a red herring in the argument. We should be using shorter distances like the examples I named above, where the distance of atmosphere wouldn't block out an entire view, but the curvature will.
If you stand on the beach, a plain or prairie, you will find the horizon extends about 3 to 6 miles around you, depending on the weather and your eyesight. The range of the human eye, our field of vision, is from 110 to 1 degree, and the smallest angle under which an object can still be seen is 1/60th of 1 degree.
Yeah, but that's why this example isn't built upon the power of the human eye. That's why we have telescopes, which greatly improves the distance in which you can see objects and serves as a necessity in this argument. Anyway, for the rest of this video, Eric goes on about the limitations of the human eye by itself, which I don't even see how it is relevant if you don't include a telescope, so we'll end the video right here. Thank you to my patrons, Fireshard, Alan Morton, Miss Fixit, and Edward Martin for always supporting my work. And also, once again, thank you to Established Titles for sponsoring this video. I have some great stuff planned for the upcoming weeks, so I hope you'll stick around. See you next week.